Kirk is brave, he's honest, he's compassionate, he's intelligent, he's willing to put it all on the line for what he believes is right. It would appear that Shatner's dramatic delivery also had some influence during Ralph's formative years. He's been called loquacious, verbose, grandiloquent, sesquipedalian, and occasionally obfuscatory. Happily, he's always willing to serve as either the butt of a joke or as a walking cautionary tale. Please welcome tonight's guest speaker, Mr. Ralph Ginorio.
Thank you all. First of all, class of 2020, you mean something so special to me. In my first year at Charter, I was tasked not only with teaching seniors and sophomores from high school, but I also was given a group of 7th graders as geography students. Now, I've taught every grade 6 through 12, but I thought that the 7th graders were going to be the bane of my existence. Chatty, energetic, all over the place, like a bouncy rubber ball. And you were. But you were also the joy of my day. You see, when I came here in the 2014-2015 school year, I'd been a history teacher for a long time, but I had not been a charter teacher. And charter is a special place. I'm here because it's a special place. I moved 3,000 miles because it's a special place. Where a high school degree is not a right, it's a privilege to earn. A charter degree is a privilege to earn. And you've earned it. No one has given it to you. No one has made allowances. You did it. You took it. But in my first days at Charter, I was not very well appreciated by my sophomores, who were highly critical of the way I did things. And the seniors sort of saw me as, buffoonish. And I am. I own that buffoonishness, and I have used it to make a career in teaching. You will find that it may not be the most cool or smooth quality that you have that ends up making your career. It could be something silly about you, but as long as it's you, you'll find it satisfying. You guys, as 7th graders who had me, were fun. You were open. You were willing to tell and listen to stories about life, the universe, and everything. And we talked about how place affects life. Thank you for that. And the rest of you who I had as sophomores and as freshmen, you were a class that was uniquely loquacious. On task loquacious. You cared enough about this arcane stuff I was talking about to really dig into it yourselves, to try to stump me, to try to prove me wrong, or to agree with me. You made the class something worth being there for. You brought something of value to it. That's one of the keys to life. In this speech, I had to think about what I would say. And in the end, we are back to that geography question about how place, context, affects life. This year is a year like 1968. It is a year that historians will write and talk about, and we're not even halfway through it yet. It is a year busy with news, a year filled with unprecedented crises, opportunities for heroism and for desperate cowardice and panic, and hopefully enough of us choose the right path. In this time, you need to understand a few things about historical perspective. I'm not going to say anything new here. I'm going to remind you of things. First, eternity abides. According to the Greek Orthodox Church, they measure creation, and excuse me, I've got to actually get this, as happening on September the 1st in the year 5509 before Christ. And the Greek Orthodox Church still uses that calendar to this day. That is their system instead of Anno Domini, which we use in the year of our Lord. So if you are a literal believer in Genesis, we're in a world that is now in the year 7528, up until August 31st, and then we start 7529. That's old. If you are a believer in what science has theorized, we are in a world about 5,000 million years old, and in a solar system about 10,000 million years old, and in a universe about 14 or 15,000 million years old. That's billion. But I like saying 1,000 million. It sort of adds to the majesty of that huge, huge number. And in all that time, and it ain't over yet, in all that time, you will only have one graduation, and you've invited me to be a part of it. I am so grateful. Thank you. In all of that time, this is a unique moment. Now, I'm going to tell you, life is not about being happy most of the time. Life is about occasional moments of happiness and joy, and occasional moments of sorrow, pain, and despondency that have you down on the floor hitting rock bottom. Most of it is somewhere in the middle. But you're charter students. You already know that. You know that school, this training ground for life, has been a place of challenge and difficulty, not a place of easy joy. Remember that lesson, and you won't be disappointed. Half of happiness is having reasonable expectations. In all that eternity of time, their near eternity of time, and combined with that, the near eternity of space, imagine the old Powers of 10 movie where you see people on the grass like we are, and then you pull back and see the Coeur d'Alene Lake, and pull back further and see the Earth, and then you see the Earth as a sphere, and then you pull back farther and farther out of the solar system, out of the local star cluster, out of the galactic spiral arm, out of the Milky Way galaxy, out of the local galactic cluster to the edge of known space. In all of that space, you are unique. In economics, value is measured by scarcity. You are priceless because you are so rare. But you are not just rare in your individuality, you are rare in this moment. Who you will be 10 years from now is different from who you were 10 years ago, is different from who you are now. We are in the midst of life full of distractions, full of storm and fury, full of light and sound. And we forget eternity, and that's a shame. Because if we remember eternity, we remember how valuable each moment is. And this is the second lesson of life. Be in the moment. So many people think that the secret of life is finding shortcuts, finding ways past things, finding a shorthand that allows you to go through things without doing them, without thinking about them by rote. Don't do that. Be in the moment. Because the moments will never come again. There's a young man who was in my 7th grade class, and in your classes too, perhaps. His moments were ended several years ago in an auto accident. I've been in the teaching business long enough to know that Jacob was not my only student who didn't make it to graduation or past graduation. Your life is precious. I'm not saying be cowardly. I think you should be brave. Freedom is for the brave and only for the brave. But a appreciate the moments, because you never know how long they'll last. We are finite beings in eternity. Whether or not you believe in God, the very economics of our rarity and our scarcity should indicate to you something about the value and dignity of human life. And that's where I come to this moment in history. We have a virus started in a city that has a laboratory for germ experimentation that was allowed to spread because of politics and become a global pandemic that has changed our life patterns in a way that nothing has. We fought 2 world wars, a Cold War, but we've experienced nothing like this since the Spanish flu of 1919. 101 years later, we're back to that. But that's not all that's going on. Our cities are erupting in a righteous indignation. Now, I tell you, I'm from a family of police and teachers. My sympathy is always for those who are part of the thin blue line between us and chaos. But there are mistakes made, and police are fallible like anyone else. And like anyone else, police are subject to the law. And if in a court of law, what seemed to be there on that terrible video turns out to be true, then the officer responsible will be punished, and the officers who stood by and did nothing will also be punished. In a court of law. I pray that you never experience mob violence. I pray that you never experience the horror of a people's court, where the crowd decides on the basis of emotion who lives and who dies. In this terrible moment of realization, involving disease, involving self-reflection, involving a competitor overseas which is engaged in a genocide of culture against the Uyghurs of Xinjiang province, who last week took away the freedom of the people of Hong Kong. This tie is the symbol of the old British Crown colony of Hong Kong. I wear it to remember the 8 million people in Hong Kong who for the last 6 months have been in the streets. They had protests there of 3 to 4 million people. That's half the population for freedom. They protested for what we have, for what we take for granted. We need you. We in this world need you. We need you to be the strong, thoughtful people that you are. The world is mightily messed up, and we need you. But you need to be worthy of the moment. It is so easy to act from visceral emotions. We need you to be thoughtful. It is so easy for you to see and react. We need you to be discerning. It is so easy to think that your ideas are righteous ones. You need to be tolerant. None of us are paragons of virtue. None of us are perfect, omniscient, omnipotent, and none of us are always right. The first step of a fanatic is to imagine that we are right, and everyone who isn't with us is stupid or evil. Don't do that. We need you, charter graduates, because you are thoughtful, because you are capable of wisdom, and because you have proven that you can handle adversity. That's what the training ground is. You've dealt with adversity. We need your strength. But in this fight, and life is a fight for conscience, for freedom, neither a narcissist nor a martyr be. You are not the only person of value. We all have value. Remember that. You are not the only person with wisdom. We all have wisdom. And there aren't that many genuinely evil people in the world to fill all the ranks of the various groups that don't agree with you. Find something find out something about those who disagree with you. Learn why a good person, a smart person, might think that wrong is right, that black is white, that up is down. And then you'll have empathy. And then you'll be truly useful. And finally, I said, I'm neither a narcissist nor a martyr be. Do not let anyone tell you that you have to give up your individuality in order to be virtuous, that you have to give up yourself in order to join the cause. That is also the road of the fanatic and the slave, and I want that not for you. Be yourself. And anyone that doesn't appreciate your individuality does not deserve your company or your support. Finally, do not ever, ever, ever let anyone saddle you with a guilt that you did not earn. And don't saddle others with guilt that they didn't earn. You will find in life that there'll be enough regrets that you yourself chose. Don't accept the guilt of your ancestors, of your culture, of your species. We are one people, descendants of Adam and Eve, or descendants of the, forget her name, she's an anthropological being, we have a single human ancestor that geneticists have discovered that's less than 40,000 years ago. So science and religion both tell us we are brothers and sisters to one another. And what we have in common is we are alive in this moment. And that gives us the ability to choose, which is the only real freedom you have in life, to choose your path. Choose love, choose tolerance, choose excellence, choose generosity, and choose to live a life worth living. Be brave, be epic. Thank you so much. Oh, one last thing. We couldn't give out history awards, but I am giving one to a student of yours, a classmate of yours who is especially loving of history. To Hunter Kearns. Hunter Kearns. This is a Solidarity t-shirt from the Polish trade union Solidarity. He'll appreciate that. And he'll also appreciate that the Solidarity trade movement is evidence that the people who first turned against communism were the industrial proletariat. Thank you very much.